Paquito D. Rivera, how are you doing?
Very good. Happy to be here with you.
And I'm overjoyed to be here with you. And I was saying before we started rolling, and this is the honest truth. My three biggest influences: Sonny Stitt, John Coltrane, and Paquito D. Rivera.
Wow, you put me in a too good company, man. I feel honored and flattered and all that, but Sonny Stitt, what a player, and how beautiful he understands both instruments, because they are two different instruments, definitely. The alto saxophone and the tenor saxophone. He's like two different persons playing those two instruments. Sonny Stitt. Well, about Coltrane, we don't have to talk. but Sonny, what a player. I never saw him playing live, but I hear the recordings, and he was tremendous.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there's so much. Your career has been so amazing. It's the kind of career that every person aspiring for greatness in music would want to have. But you mentioned in an email that I guess that this year is 40 years for you being in the United States.
Yeah, it's a long time, huh? You was not even born.
Well, actually, I was, and I was looking at the calendar and stuff, and I started when I was 6 years old, and it was in 1980.
I've been 40 years. That's a long time, but I have had the opportunity to be in the city that I dreamed since I was a kid. My father, when I was like, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old, he came with an LP, Benny Goodman live at Carnegie Hall, with Lionel Hampton and Gene Krupa, the wonderful Teddy Wilson, and all those, Harry James. And I asked my father, what is that? The recording, that was recorded in 1938, but it didn't come out until 1956, 1956. And then what is that? And that's swing, and that's Carnegie Hall. Benny Goodman at the Carnegie Hall. When he said Carnegie Hall, I understood carne y frijol. That means meat and beans. Always I dreamed to be a musician here. I'm playing Carnegie Hall. I play a few times there, and I am very happy to be here because there's so much music in this city, in the entire country.
So tell us about yourself. We know you're from Cuba, but tell us about how you grew up and what your childhood was like, and what was it about music that was so enchanting that drew you in to become a professional musician?
It's an interesting story. I wrote a book called My Sax Life. And I talk about how my father initiated me in the music world. My father was a classical saxophone player. In the 40s, he imported the French school of the saxophone from the Paris Conservatory. The Marcel Mule school. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
And he never had the ability to improvise, my father, but he loved the sounds of Lester Young and Stan Getz, and I don't blame him for that, because he saw in me the desire of improvising, and he didn't know how to do it, so he was a great teacher. And a great teacher is not that tell you that he will teach you everything. But a great teacher is somebody that when he don't know something, He said, okay, I will look for somebody who can teach you that. So he found a couple of, well, more than a couple of his friends to teach me, to discover for me the magic world of improvisation. You know, he took me to Pucho Escalante, who was a guy who he's 100 years old. He lives now in New York, and I was very worried about improvisation. How can I say, no, calm down. I will explain to you. All you have to do is listening and play after that. I start, for example, copying Benny Goodman solos. And later on, Charlie Parker and Sonny Stitt and Paul Desmond and this and that. But in the beginning, I start copying those solos, and then I develop my own solos. I think like everybody else, more or less. It's the only way. The only way to learn is to copy other people first. That's the way you learn how to speak, you know, with your family at home. You know, that's why it's so important to speak correctly when there are some kids around. When they are not around, maybe you can have some liberties. But when the kid is around, you're supposed to you know, to be polite and all that, if you don't want the kid to be the same way. So the same thing with music. Never teach bad habits to your students. You know, when you grow up, you develop some bad habits always, you know, that you have to fight them. But never tell your students to develop bad habits are okay. No, they are not okay. You have to know the rules before you break them. You know, you don't play by the rule. No, you play by the rule first, and then if you have the talent and breaking it, you think it's going to be better, then you do it. But first, you have to play by the rules. It's important to know the rules, and then you do whatever you want to do with them and pay for it.
Yeah, I think it was G.K. Chesterton said that, you know, beware of removing fences that you don't know why the fence is there in the first place.
Yeah.
And, you know, it could be a dog. It could be a dog that back there.
Or a crazy bull or something, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm big on, you know, in my teaching, I'm big on students understanding the rules. I try to get them playing as soon as possible, but it's all about developing a fundamental understanding of, you know, the language. You know, how does the language work? You know, what kinds of phrases work in, you know, certain places. Obviously, you have to learn scales. You have to learn how to master the instrument and all of that. In my upbringing, which is interesting, because my dad was also a great saxophone player. He was a great saxophone player, and he was my teacher. He was a great teacher. He was my teacher until I went to college, actually. And I got, you know, 3 or 4 lessons a week. And the way, you know, and there's nothing like living with your teacher, right? Because when you're practicing, your teacher's always around, right? It's not like if I was going to a music store and taking lessons, and then when I came back, you know, maybe I'm doing what they told me to do, maybe I'm not, and then I come back and they ask me, "Hey, did you do what I told you to do?" It's, "Oh yeah, I did what you." So
same thing here.
No, yeah. My dad. I grew up in an old that house has got to be built in like 1920 or something. We had it renovated, and we you know, built some stuff on it and everything, rooms on it and things. But in those old houses, there's a lot of space that's wasted, right? So, for instance, in a newer house, the space that's underneath the stairs, they would have used that for something, you know. And this. Thank you so much for watching my video so far.
If you'd like to support, there are several ways to do so below. Also, likes are free. Please comment, share, and subscribe. Now back to the video.
This room. And that was my practice room. And the practice room was literally right, next to the living room, which is where everyone watched TV. Everyone congregated. That was the place everyone was at. So it was soft enough so it wasn't distracting, but loud enough so he could hear everything I was playing.
Pretty convenient, huh?
Yeah.
That is F sharp. What's wrong with you? Yeah, the same thing at home with my father. He was always around. What is remarkable is that I never saw. He was retired. He retired from the army, so he had all the time in the world to teach me to play the instrument and to practice. He used to practice 26 hours a day, the entire day. I never saw the tenor in the case. Was always in the music, in the saxophone stand that he had in the living room, because in any minute he would pick up the instrument again and practice some scales or something, or some studies by Ferling or all those.
Right.
Yeah, you know the Ferling etudes or all those beautiful scales and arpeggios from the Paris Conservatory, all the time. If not, when he lifted the saxophone in the stand, was to teach me something. So it was a high discipline, but was fun, because learning become it's like a Nintendo something, because you always are discovering new things. Starting is like discovering all the time new things that you can develop in the future. So I have been using that for all my life now, paying my rent with that. Paying my rent with what I like to do, you know.
Yeah, you know, one thing that my dad was very careful. He was very careful with the way that he talked about practicing. First of all, he didn't call it practice. He would say, go get your horn and let's play. So it was always, he always had like this, the terminology. He had control of the terminology. He wanted to make sure that I didn't develop a sort of a drudgery or something about practicing, and that I just saw it as something fun to do, to play, I started when I was 6, so that's the right word to use with a kid, right?
So you started with the alto saxophone, with soprano. What was your first instrument?
Alto.
The alto. I started with the soprano. Why? Because my father he used to be the Serbian representative in Havana in the 50s. So when he made sure that I wanted to be a musician, he ordered for me a wonderful chord soprano. Still I have that instrument. It's the thing here.
Oh, wow.
It's very few of them around.
Wow.
I think Paul Cohen had one. This instrument is interesting because it has a number in the body and another number in the bill. I don't know why. But it's a chord soprano, and I learned. If you see in my back, there is a picture of my father and me the first day I played.
Yeah.
With this saxophone.
Yeah.
So I started with the soprano, and then with when he gave me the alto, the range for me was very frustrating, because when I play the F, the high F and all that, I have all those notes in the soprano, and the alto was something is missing here. I said, no, nothing is missing. I will teach you. how to play the high notes. And then he came back with a method, a book of Jimmy Dorsey. Jimmy Dorsey was a favorite saxophone player of Charlie Parker. Charlie Parker loved Jimmy Dorsey. He had a very conventional style, but he was a great saxophone player. And he was one of the first ones, him and Ted Nash, to play in the high register. Then I learned how to play the high register in the alto. That's an interesting story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I'll tell you, the thing about your playing that's been so influential on my playing was I heard you play, and I heard you first with Eric Carey, and then your record Explosion, and in particular the song "A Song to My Son," song you wrote for your son. And the way, I would listen to that over and over and over, and just the unbelievable control that you have in intonation. It's as if you don't require fingerings to play those notes. It sings so well, and it, playing those notes up there, you can hear, with most players when they're playing up there, you can hear the sort of articulation of the keys, and it's but when you're playing up there, it's like you just hear the notes, and it's just singing out.
So some days are better than others, you know that. Some days it's better than others. Those are very high note being up there. You play the tenor too?
Yes. Maybe
you remember a recording of Lee Konitz and Warner March. There is, I don't remember the name of the LP, but it is a picture in the cover. It's a great cover. It's a picture with them sitting in a rock in Central Park in New York. Well, there is a version of Donna Lee Unison, alto and tenor, Donna Lee by Charlie Parker. And the alto part is really, let me do the alto here. The alto part, the melody. That Lee Konitz playing the alto. Now, when you play that with the tenor unison, it's a pain in the neck because it's almost impossible to play that. And Warner March plays that with so much ease. And once I asked Lee Konitz, I never met Warner March, how does he play that up there? So easily. I said, easily. He practiced the entire day to play that recording of Donna Lee. So I think that in the tenor, it's a little even harder to play up there.
It's interesting, and that's actually something that I've practiced a lot, is playing Donna Lee up the octave on tenor, and it's something that I talk to my students about, taking Parker heads as a tenor player, take Parker heads, play them up the octave to develop more facility in the altissimo range.
Oh.
And it's ultra clunky, and it's really difficult, and you have to play it really slow and all of that. But it's also like one of the best things to practice. So it's, of course I've worked out, and I have my students work out like scales and thirds, extended range, and, linear, scales, extended range, all of that stuff. But as far as playing melodies up there, there's really nothing that beats playing those heads up in that range.
Yeah. Make it
but you were saying about the the difference between the tenor and the alto with respect to altissimo range, or the ease of playing the altissimo. It's so in particular with altissimo G on tenor. All kind of resistant. It fights like heck, and I always have a couple students that really struggle to get that G out. It can take them a couple years before they can get it out. I give them these voicing exercises and
in the tenor.
On the tenor, and the reason is that the octave key is in the wrong place for that altissimo G to come out, and the reason it's easier on alto is because the distance is shorter between the octave keys, the octave vents, I should say.
Oh.
And so because it's a little shorter, and saxophone is more of an art than a science as far as its design, right? So it's like on alto, it's like that note comes out much less resistant. On tenor, it fights you like crazy.
It's a different fingering too, right? You use different fingering.
Yeah. So on alto, you do side B flat and the F key. Yeah. On tenor, just the side B flat. But then
in tenor, I do just here.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like.
Oh yeah. You have to fight it to get it to come out. And some horns, they just based on their design or whatever, some horns fight you even harder with doing that. I had a Yanagasawa 990 mu. I sold it to one of my students years and years ago, and I used to be able to just with that forked F key, just pop altissimo G's out. It was not fighting me at all. And then I switched horns, and then I had to learn a different fingering. I mean, I could still play it, but it wasn't reliable. So then I started doing 1-3, so just the regular B key, 1-3 in the left hand, and 3 in the right hand, and the octave key for altissimo G. And so now, even on alto, about half the time I'd say I'll choose that fingering over the standard altissimo G fingering. Just depends on what's happening around it.
I do 2 forks to play the high, 2 forks and the B flat key. That's what I do. You see, 1, 2, 1, 2, and here. And the G sharp with this one here.
I see.
O, G sharp.
Okay.
But in the tenor, it's like that. And the G sharp, I don't know, because I never played that note. I don't play tenor. I play tenor only with the Jamie Eversole. I have a contract with him in my living room to play the tenor and the baritone and the tarogato. But in the alto, it has the finger. I didn't know that one that you're talking about. 1, 2?
1, 3. So 1, 3, 3. With the octave key. 1, 3, 3 with the octave key. Yep.
And that's it. And the octave key. Yep.
Well, yeah, and it actually makes some other notes that are around that, like for instance G sharp, or actually even F sharp. It's some of the other notes around it are less clunky to get to and from with that fingering. But I had to switch to that on tenor because the horn that I got after that, the Yanagasawa horn, it wouldn't accept that fingering, and it just didn't like it.
These Japanese are a little tricky. Really
All
good.
right.
I understand that the Yanagasawa is a very good instrument, huh? I never played.
Yeah, I had the tenor, and I had an Elamona soprano. Sold that one to one of my students also. I actually don't play Yanagasawa anymore. I've been playing LA Sax,
Oh,
and there's a model called Big Lip X, and that's the model that I play on soprano, alto, and tenor. It's the same horn. It has these really big parabolic tone resonators, which seem to enhance it. Like, I don't know exactly how to describe it. You know, and a lot of this stuff is just like in your head, right? It's not actually doing anything, but hey, I see this thing. Hey, that might be neat. You know. So then now you can't play unless you have that little thing on the horn, and that thing was never doing anything in the first place.
yeah, and you pay $500 more for that stuff there.
Exactly. So tell us more about growing up. What kind of music? I mean, you said a lot about the music that was going on. You talked about lessons with your dad. You sent me a picture where, let's see here. It seems like it's in a frame. It's a handwritten letter from Marcel Mule. So he was trying to recruit you to go to the Paris Conservatory?
Probably my father get in touch with him through the Selmer Company or something, because he was the representative of the Selmer Company, and he got all the LPs, you know, with the quartet and as a soloist with piano. He got all the recordings at home. Those red cover LPs. Some of them smaller than the big LPs. And probably he got in touch with him. I was very, very young, a kid. So one day I received that letter with a picture, you know, signed and all that. I don't know what he said. This is in French. But the letter say that I hope that one day you come here and study with us in the conservatory. So
that's amazing.
That was interrupted by the you know, Castro came into power, and well, that's it. Nobody goes no place. So you stay here, and that's it. But the idea of my father was to send me to study the maybe the final year at the Paris Conservatory. That was the idea. And I used to play all that repertoire, you know, the Concertino de Cámara, and Giración, the Eugene Bossa composition, Jacques Ibert, Pierre Veronese, all those, even Paul Creston music too.
Did you? What is that? Did you play the Desenclos?
I don't remember that one.
What's the full name of that? What is it? What is the composer's name? What is it? Alfred Desenclos.
Yeah,
It was one of those. Yeah, it was one of those commissioned works. So I did a. So I recently finished my my doctorate about a year ago now, and for a final project, I did a recording project which was all Marcel Mule commissioned works.
Oh, did you do a CD out of it?
I did. So it's well, I never released it as a CD. It's a CD length, but I released it on SoundCloud, and now it's on my YouTube channel.
Oh, I think I am going to. Brenda was listening to that the other day, and then I couldn't find it. I heard that and said, I asked my wife, "What is that?" She said, that's Dr. Thunder. No kidding. I had to get that. So I know that I can get it in your YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I can like put an email together and that has a bunch of direct links to make it easy.
I will love that. Probably you play also the improvisación. Eugene Bossa. They wrote so many beautiful thing for the saxophone, promote and commissioned by Marcel Muir.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's important to know the music for the saxophone player, even if you're going to be just and only a jazz player. The knowledge of the French school of the saxophone is so helpful.
Oh yeah.
Antonio Hart, for example, he knows all those pieces, and that develop even you develop as a better improviser when you have all those. It's like having more weapons, to shoot. You know, all the music is another. It's a language that you can combine with a bebop. And then something. My father told me, you think you will see that you are going to make a style out of all that music that you collect. Not only Cuban music or jazz music, but classical and folk music and flamenco and whatever you can pick around, because that would enrich your world, your horizon, and become a better improviser.
Yeah, it's interesting. Players like yourself and Wynton Marsalis.
Branford too.
Yeah. But Branford, but this is more of a recent development for Branford. I interviewed Branford, and that was one of the questions that I asked him was about his classical saxophone playing, and and kind of when he took an interest in that and everything. I interviewed Antonio Hart also.
He mentioned it too.
I'm sorry.
Antonio, he talked about that, about his knowledge of
classical. I think we did talk about classical saxophone at one point, but I don't remember exactly what we said on that topic. But Eddie Daniels, musicians that play both sides of the instrument, so to speak, and just how both of them, they sort of help each other. Right?
Oh, of course.
Right. And my thought is, if you're successful mastering classical repertoire and the language of jazz, then there's literally nothing that exists that you can't play.
Especially rhythmically. There is a terrible problem that is improving now. Oh, well, still is there. You go to a symphony orchestra. I do a lot of symphony work, a lot of that, around. I write music for symphonies, and I go with my quintet and play with the symphony as a soloist, blah, blah, blah. And to give you an example, you go to a rehearsal, and they have a piece by Stravinsky, which is so complicated, metrically. Un, dos, tres, tira, they play that, and it's a 15 minutes rehearsal, no problem. Next, so you want some music with some syncopation, and you write pam 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 pam. Ay. You can spend the entire morning trying to understand. Pam 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 pam. No, don't do pa, because the bongocero is leaving. You have to hit the note of the syncopation and leave it. In the music of Brahms, for example, you do but in Cuban music you have the pa, because you have to follow the bongo player. It's very simple. And in swing music too.
Right.
Meaning that the knowledge of popular music and jazz and all that is important for classical players. They have to convince themselves that the knowledge of those syncopations are important, because if not, it's really problematic. very problem. It's improving. It's getting better, but it still is so problematic, you know, especially the syncopation factor.
So some years ago, I did a recording project called Sacramental, and what it is 6 original compositions that I orchestrated for jazz, quartet, and chamber orchestra. And it's you know what I tried to do to avoid certain issues of feel that often that you know, great orchestral players often, because they don't see, you know, they don't have the opportunity to play, you know, strings swinging is kind of a, you know, it's doesn't necessarily always sound the way that you want it to. So what I did was I wrote the music in such a way to sort of capitalize on what everyone was strong at. So I didn't have a lot of occasions for the string players to swing. There was a lot of technical stuff that they, of course, they nailed easily because that's what the training, you know, allows you to be able to do. But for instance, I didn't have, you know, the string players improvising, and I didn't have the jazz players playing certain things that would be, you know, non-idiomatic for what, you know, what is typical, you know, for a rhythm section instrument. And, you know, it still required a lot of rehearsing, and it was a really good experience. I need to bring some of that music back out sometime. Haven't played it for a long time. But yeah, I totally understand that. And I play in, you know, orchestras, frequently, and, you know, especially during like Pops concerts. And it's always like, it's always that weird kind of pulling and tugging, trying to get the feel that you're trying to get out of the orchestra. You know?
Even the downbeats, it's a problem. In the I remember watching a commentary of a lady on TV about a particular symphony orchestra. I don't remember. I think it was the Boston Symphony or something. And she was talking about Eugene Ormandy, and she was an old lady, and said, I remember the orchestra of Eugene Ormandy when he used to do like, oh, you cannot do. Oh, the big band, you have to do pa. It's a 1, 2, 3, pa. You know, do 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh,
That's hilarious.
She was celebrating the. Oh no! I don't understand that. The orchestra is very heavy. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard because they are very distant. For example, the second violins and the contrabasses are on the other side.
Right.
So it's kind of complicated. But with the conductor with good sense of rhythm, you can achieve that. I have had terrible experience with the hi-hat or with the conga in the Latin music. You know, the conga plays on the offbeat. That is not the downbeat. So I have seen the conductor do or the hi-hat. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have seen some conductors doing 1, 2, 3. No. You say, no, but I saw him, man. You told me to follow him. He doing like, and then why? Because that's the way the music is, you know.
That's hilarious.
But it's better now than 20 years ago. I have to confess that. Especially if you have a good conductor. A good conductor, no, a conductor that is used to listen to that type of music. A conductor like Leonard Bernstein, for example. It's a person who can understand both language very well. Oh, David,
So, okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. So let's fast forward to, and we're skipping a lot of stuff, but but let's fast forward to playing with Dizzy Gillespie.
oh, Dizzy. Dizzy is always in my heart. He's all over the place. You don't see it, but I have a picture of him up there and another there. Dizzy was a great influence in my playing, in my way I conduct myself on the stage, in many aspects of my life. He was a great help when I arrived here, and he was a very funny man too. He has a great sense of humor. Two of my favorite artists are Mozart and Dizzy Gillespie. And people ask me, oh, why? Is it because they have one thing in common that is very, very useful, a great sense of humor. You can be a great artist, very serious artist, and then still laugh at yourself. And Dizzy was like that, great sense of humor. And he played the same way. He was so gracious. You can hear that in the music of Mozart too. I like musicians with good sense of humor. I like also some serious writers like I don't know, Wagner or whatever, or Brahms. But I prefer Dizzy because made me laugh and know that, and maybe be happy to be a musician. He was very special. Very special.
Now, did you have the occasion to talk to him about Charlie Parker?
Yes. Once as a joke, because I knew more or less the answer. I asked him, half joking and half serious, Dizzy, I was told that Charlie Parker, he didn't know how to read music and he played by ear. And he told me, that's not true. And he was very serious. He said, that is not true. Who told you that? That is not true. I said, well, some people play by ear, and he didn't let me finish. He said, not like that. In order to play like that, you have to know what you are doing, man. Charlie Parker, he didn't say me that, but I know Charlie Parker was a follower of Igor Stravinsky. And he was very serious about that. And I understand that he had a desire in some point of his career of stop playing the saxophone and go to study at the Paris Conservatory, composition.
Really?
Not the saxophone. Yeah, that's what so people that knew him very well. And he said that he had a desire one day not to play anymore and pursue a career as a composition student. He wanted to study with some people about composition. I believe that. I can believe that because he was a very intelligent person to start with, very analytical and very advanced all the time, like Miles Davis. Those people that want to do something that they don't want to do something that they did already. Charlie Parker was a type of person like Miles Davis. You know. So yeah, he told many stories about Charlie Parker, you know that. But I think every time he talked to me about Charlie Parker, to me it looked like he make him feel a little sad. Because of all that happened, you know. And at the end of his life, he was not even allowed to get in his own club. I mean, the club that has his name, Birdland. He was not allowed to go inside the club. You know, talking about drugs.
Yeah.
That thing that killed so many talented people. Jaco Pastorius was another one. such a wonderful players and all that, and the drugs drive them crazy. A total disaster, eh? Well, that's the way it is.
You know, I think people don't understand what, the life of a musician is like. So, you spend a lot of time practicing, time in rehearsals, and, time performing, but there's a lot of alone time, being by yourself, traveling, and then get in a hotel by yourself, waiting for the next thing to happen. And it seems that maybe one of the reasons why a lot of musicians end up being drug addicts is that they don't know what to do with the boredom. They don't, and so, you have to be doing something. You get into something, and then, hey, if other people are doing this, hey, maybe this is the thing that I'll do.
It's true. That thing have destroyed the life of so many very valuable people. So some of them even go to jail. Look at Jimmy Heath. If they, he's always telling us stories about how he went to jail and all that. Once, after he came out of jail, Jimmy Heath told me that he took a plane to Japan with the Japanese visa and his passport. And when he arrived there, they were waiting for him and said, board the same plane and back to New York. Said, no, but I have my visa here. No, we don't want you here. It's terrible, the mark that the drugs leave in your body, in your mind, in your papers, in everything, But that still is taking. I think it's improving. It's not fashionable anyway. I remember before in the 80s that especially Latin gigs, you used to go to the dressing room and look like it was snowing. Because he was cocaine, and people, 2 or 3 people in the bathroom. That when you look down, it looked like it was a horse inside because 4 feet. But that don't happen anymore. Thanks God, that doesn't happen anymore. But that Woody Allen. That's funny. Huh? Woody Allen say that comedy is tragedy plus time. So now we can laugh at that, and also we can say that believe me, I don't see it anymore. You to be all the time.
Yeah, I mean now granted, I think I've been fortunate to be around mostly wholesome folks in my music career, at least people that were not willing to, share that with me, share that information with me,
Drugs and all that.
Yeah, and so I've not. I mean, so all the folks I know, it seems like I'm not even sure that I know anyone that that's struggling with that. At least not well.
Good for you. I have seen many in the jazz world and in Latin. I have been in both fields, and I saw many, and I was able to see that now it's not fashionable anymore. Not that I know, I don't see it anymore. And you to be very present, and the guy, the spender, the guy who used to sell, the peddler they call it, and I don't see that anymore. Not in my dressing room. No.
Well, maybe it's because the gigs still pay the same, but the drugs went up. So,
Yeah.
so now you can't afford them.
Is that what it is? But I saw, it was a very, very depressing. saw Jaco Pastorius homeless in next to the Blue Note, you know. In the play that he was a star, he used to be there, play there as a star. I saw him playing basketball with people and you know, sleeping in the streets and all that. I saw Jaco in that state, and that was very painful for us, very, very painful. But that's a lesson for future generations. That don't. That's a no. Don't go there. Don't go there because it's going to destroy your career and your life eventually.
And there's a lot of more, you know, fulfilling, you know, things that you can do these days, right? So for a lot of people, fitness is one of those things. Obviously, spirituality, like, you know, Coltrane or something, you know. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of other things that you can do. Meditation. There's just... you know, practice. You know, there's all kinds of other things that can be done these days that, you know, that are much better. You know, much better for you.
Yeah. And for others, for your family, and friends, and all that.
That's right.
So nobody wanted to see those wonderful artists going down the drain like that. No. For us, it was very hard to, extremely hard.
So can you, I mean, you've had so many great moments on the stage and, you know, playing with Dizzy and playing with everybody that you've played with. We probably have some others in common, but I can see one right now on that Explosion record, Claudio Roditi.
Oh, Claudio.
Rest in peace. I played with Claudio.
No kidding. You have a lot of fun, eh?
Yeah, such a great player and such a good dude. He actually gave me he had printed up a bunch of books where he basically, what it was is that it's the same line, the same musical phrase over and over, but just articulated and phrased differently.
I have that book, and I did one also. Very good that you talk about that. Articulation is very important in music, and in jazz. Too many of our colleagues, they are playing everything legato. What about like Claudio? Mm-hmm. So right. Claudio did a very interesting book, and then I feel inspired and I did my own book. It's called like that, 14 exercises on articulation, and I enjoy very much listening to Claudio. To people like Claudio, Winton, and Branford, and people that articulate, Frank Rosolino, Slide Hampton. Mm-hmm. The articulation, I think, is very important. Playing everything legato. Try to imagine to do the same thing, but staccato. It's boring, huh? Well, the legato thing is very boring too. And Claudio, so you have that book.
I do. I had that book. He gave me that book, and so when I played with him, I was still a student at Western Michigan University, mm-hmm. and we talked. He was very generous with information. I was asking him about his the unusual valves he has on his horn. You know,
the rotary valve.
Yeah. And so I was talking to him about that, and my master of the language and so articulate. I mean, everything was so clear. He spoke so clearly. Yeah.
That's the way to define Claudio. A very clear player, loud and clear. You can hear all those. He played two notes, and you know that is him. The sound is so beautiful, and he played just what he had to play. There is no gimmick in his playing. He plays just what is supposed to be played, I feel so proud, to have been part of his career and he part of my career too. Claudio is great. The carioca of the trumpet. The combination that he used to do between the Brazilian stuff and the bebop language was absolutely perfectly balanced. I learned a lot from him. And I have a lot of fun playing with him too.
So, again, you've played with, so many, and you've done so much in music. Are there moments or points that really stand out to you? I'm sure there are. Maybe a moment that sort of answered some questions that you had, and maybe helped you to make a decision or to move in a particular direction, or just moments where you're on stage and just something transcendent is occurring, and it's just those kind of moments.
Well, I have been in the stage with people that impress me so much that sometimes I forget that I have to play. There was a great educator called Shinichi Suzuki. He was the person who created the Suzuki method to play the violin for the kids. He said, you bring me a kid 3 years old, and I will make him play, if he's not totally normal, I will make him a good violin player, anyone. But Suzuki had the theory that the most important an important thing in life is that you never lose your humility, your modesty. Because when you become too arrogant, you are not going to be able anymore to enjoy the grandness that surrounds you. The fantastic thing that happened, because you are too busy, in your own world, and you don't see that probably it's a beautiful lady crossing next to you, because you don't see, you're like that. Same thing with music. Right. Maybe it's a wonderful chick around you.
Right.
Same thing with music. Same thing with arts in general. You have to be humble. It's important. You are supposed to know what you are, but don't exaggerate, because it's always somebody that is better than you. No doubts about it. Somebody will be around that is better than you, or doing something that you don't know how to do it. So it's important to be humble. I have been lucky enough to enjoy the wonderful artists like Yo-Yo Ma, or like Dizzy Gillespie, or Gary Burton, or so many others. Even my own musicians, people that play with me. Diego Urcola, for example, is a wonderful trumpet player that took the place of Claudio 30 years ago. And this is, of course, Dizzy Gillespie, Slide Hampton, James Moody. James Moody was an example also of humbleness. A wonderful, famous artist that he never hesitates to ask you, how do you do that? So, can I have a lesson with you? That is very important. I remember when we were recording a CD of Brazilian music with Yo-Yo Ma. And Yo-Yo was not very sure or something, and he called me because he wanted to come to my house to learn how to play certain syncopation things. We are talking about a big name here, big, enormous, giant name. You don't know, even if you play wrong, nobody's going to notice, especially the guys who pays. And he took a car, a taxi from Boston here, stay here with us to learn how to play certain things. That's a great artist. I have been next to some of those great artists, and I am not like that. So I have the chance to appreciate it. So that is my advice, Never,
You-
never lose your to be humble, your humbleness, because you're missing what is around you.
Yeah. You know, you were talking about James Moody. I was at an IAJE conference. You know, but obviously the IAJE doesn't exist anymore. But this is a long, long time ago.
I played the last one in Canada. You came to that one, the final one.
I did.
In Canada.
I did.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I did a presentation at that like a master class or something at that conference in Toronto, and that was just before my wife and I got married. So we got married. I think it was like the next weekend or something, and so you know I brought her with me, you know, to the thing, and she was a little bit stressed because of all the wedding plans and stuff, but it was also a good thing to like leave all of that and, you know, go somewhere else and, you know, just hang out. And then, but anyhow, so years before that, I went to this conference and I saw James, and I was at some kind of book, you know, a bookseller, you know, like Hal Leonard or, you know, advanced music or, you know, one of those booths. And he came in and he just started grabbing books. And he's like, oh man, you know, I don't have this book yet. It's like, oh yeah. And I saw he had like this big stack of books like this. And I just kept thinking to myself, what doesn't this guy know already? And he's got this big stack of books. I mean, forever the student, obviously, you know, and that's what's happening. That is I want to be that, you know?
Yeah, that is what James Moody. I can't imagine that because he always eager to learn something and teach other people too. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. Maybe he learned that from Dizzy. You know, Dizzy was another one who loved to learn and then teach other people to do it. I learned this stuff. You want to learn about it? It's very simple. You do this and that. And that was James Moody, always buying books or trying to learn something. Yeah, that's the best way to enjoy your profession. That is what it is.
All right. So, do you have any hobbies?
Yes, I do. I like old cars.
I was going to say I've got a nice picture.
Oh, my Bel Air.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Bel Air. And I also have an MG 1952.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful. I used to have Volkswagens. I am crazy about it. I have a collection like 2,000 models, lighters and everything. The big pictures of Volkswagen, the Bug. Oh. I used to have two of them, and I used to have a beautiful Thunderbird 1955. I like old cars, going around my old cars. That is one of my hobbies. I like doing that. And I collect the models, and yes, I like old cars. And I go during the summer, except this summer that we have the pandemic. But I used to go every summer to the car show that I have in New Jersey. Well, they have it all over the place, all over the country. You know, I like old cars. That's what it is.
Yeah, that is a beautiful car. And it's my color too, because my blue is my favorite color.
My father took me to the showroom in Havana in 1956, and then this car used to be red, but always I wanted to have a Bel Air that color. So I remember that the car was there, and I asked my father, "Wow, what a beautiful car, Daddy. Why you don't buy one?" And then my father said, "Are you crazy? That car cost $2,000. $2,000. You with $2,000 now you buy the wheels."
All right. Yeah. Thank you, inflation.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question about your practice routine. So, what kinds of things do you practice? And I suppose maybe you could talk about some things that you used to practice, or that you have practiced to develop a particular thing in your playing, and then maybe talk a little bit about what you're working on right now.
I have to tell you that I don't have anymore a practice routine for many years. I used to have it. Scales and arpeggios and etudes. All that from, I studied the entire books of the Paris Conservatory, like you, for example. I am sure that you play all those the Fairlings, the Fourier study by Fairling, Elide Crozet, and all that. I play all that, but not anymore. I don't have the time. I do so many things. I write music, and I do interviews. I go on tour, and I don't practice. I don't have a system of practice. Now what I do, I practice what I have to play. If I have to learn a new piece or something, then I play in my clarinet and also in the saxophone. I play more clarinet than saxophone these days. Why? The clarinet is a harder instrument to play. Are you a clarinet player too?
Yes, sir.
You started with the clarinet or with the saxophone?
Started with the saxophone.
Oh, like me. Most people start with the clarinet.
Right.
Well, then I practice more the clarinet than the saxophone because the clarinet is a harder instrument. It's more complicated instrument. It's more problematic, to call it some way. Frank West said that the clarinet was invented by 5 men that never met. So,
that's great.
you see, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 different men.
Right.
And then I practice when I had to play something complicated. Then I practice with the clarinet, or with the saxophone, but mainly with the clarinet. But I recommend to young players to design themselves a good practice system or routine. First of all, because that develops your resistance. Now these days we are in trouble because I used to keep my resistance, my endurance, by playing gigs. But now no gigs, and then when I play a little bit, I start getting tired. That's terrible. I don't know how we're going to do this when this is over. It's going to be problematic because it's not the same thing when you play at home than when you play gigs, with other people, and especially when you play classical stuff. Why? Because the jazz stuff, you can improvise and you don't know certain things, so you feel tired. You can tell Diego, now you get it. And then you learn. When you're playing Brahms, you cannot do that. You have to play what is written because everybody knows that. So,
yeah.
So everybody has his different systems for practicing or for keep themselves in a good shape.
Now, I listened to that. I watched that video you sent me.
Which one? Oh, yeah, the French one?
Yes. Oh, goodness gracious. That was really great. It's like a great example of some of the, what we have to do right now to be able to play together. Right? Is like these so-called multicam kind of videos. but your video, you have some sort of effects on. So it doesn't. It's not just a clear picture, like in particular, like with the French horn. And then there's a moment in the video where outside his window, a woman is walking.
A pretty one, huh? You
Right. I saw that.
That was not intentional. I will tell you what happened. This guy was a fantastic player, Chris Comer. He's the principal horn of the New Jersey Symphony. They commissioned me to write the piece for them. It's called Salvador Dali, the Catalonian painter, in the tropics. Then I wrote the piece for symphony orchestra, and then I reduced it, for that small little combo that you saw. Chris Comer is staying these days in a retreat that he managed in Montana. So there is a cabin. He was playing in the cabin, and was a coincidence that when he was recording the video, the beautiful lady came walking with some bucket of water or something, Mm-hmm. And then I asked him, who's that wonderful woman that was walking? He didn't answer me. Maybe he don't know. Nobody will know that woman is. And about the color, the beautiful production. I work with two clarinet players. They are very good with videos. Juan Ruiz from Colombia and Diana Alvarez is a clarinetist from Cuba. But they are very good for computers. So they put together this, and they add. We did also one with Yo-Yo Ma called Rice, a piece that I wrote for him also. And they are very good by combining pictures and colors, and they told me that they found this filter that produces all those colors. It's good looking, it's really nice.
It's beautiful.
That is Zoom. It's a Zoom. Each one recorded at home. Chris Comer, the soloist, play from his cabin with that beautiful lady who is in the picture. Thanks God. She's very pretty. Yeah.
And because I've, been part of a lot of projects, that was the first thing that I thought was, I bet that was not intentional, but it was just perfect, so they left it in there. Some stuff you can't. Sometimes stuff you just you don't do something. Don't fix it. That was that little added thing that just
that's what it is. You call that improvisation.
Yeah, that's right.
Once improvisation, you play that and you cannot play that again. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes things go wrong too.
Yeah, right. What if What if the lady wasn't so pretty? Well, I could keep asking you questions, and there's so much we could continue to talk about, but I think for time, I'm going to ask you if you have any final words.
Well, I have to tell you that I have had a wonderful conversation with you, and it's really great to talk to somebody that bring some interesting topics to the conversation. Sometimes you talk to people that they think they are journalists or they interview you. I have no idea what they are talking about, and that is terrible. There was one many years ago. I said, "Maestro, it's an honor to have you at home, and it's an honor to have you in my program. What is your activity? What do you do for a living?" It's incredible. I told the guy, I am a bullfighter and a hair. Say, no kidding, yeah. But you have been a real pleasure to talk. I hope that someday we can play some music together.
I'm going to. So I'm the director of jazz studies at Ohio State, and we have an annual jazz festival. And unfortunately, we had to cancel it due to the pandemic. It was supposed to be this past March, but looking forward, I would love to have you come and play with our faculty group, do some master classes. I would love to make that happen. I'm going to work to make that happen.
Whatever. I will be waiting for you next to the telephone.
Yeah, but so anyhow, this has been a dream come true to me, and you've really inspired so many. But you really inspired me, and thanks again for this conversation. Thanks for your time,
Dr. Thunder. It's a pleasure to be in here. So hope to see you soon.
God bless you. All right. Bye.